Good evening. This is Suraj Singh speaking from Bharat, India, and this is August 12, 2020. Soil, soil engineering topic, and this is a screen share for soil engineering. Reference from geotechnical investigation and laboratory testing. Geotechnical investigation and laboratory testing. It's an important basis for planning and construction of building and infrastructure projects comprising various types of structures as foundation, excavation pit, land reclamation, beach nourishment, knowledge of ground conditions. For this purpose, geotechnical investigation with its respective services shall be carried out. Their nature and extent depends on types of structures, difficulty of structures and expected ground conditions. ये करना पड़ता है प्लानिंग कंस्ट्रक्शन करने के लिए प्लानिंग करनी पड़ती है मिट्टी को कैसे टेस्ट किया जाए बिल्डिंग बनानी हो या कोई भी ऐसा प्रोजेक्ट बनाना हो जो कि अच्छी फाउंडेशन जिसमें आनी हो जिसकी खुदाई करनी हो या ज़मीन को दोबारा दावा करना हो बीच इन्वेस्टमेंट करनी हो या कोई भी स्ट्रक्चर बनाना हो उसके लिए मिट्टी का टेस्ट ज़रूरी होता है जिसको कहते हैं जियो टेक्निकल इन्वेस्टिगेशन. Geotechnical investigation, soil investigation, soil accumulation, we can call whatever you want. These respective services shall be carried out. Nature and extent depends on type of structures, difficulty of structure and expected ground conditions. Geotechnical engineering provides following services well. Now, this website I am taking is www.geotechnical-engineers.com. This is a website for reference. Now actually I want to share this information with people who are interested in knowing about soil engineering for purpose of foundations, because without soil knowledge we cannot design any foundation. If architect or engineer they do not know about soil, how to deal with soil, they are not qualified to design your foundation of buildings or structures. Soil itself is very big part, very important part of foundation. If we don't know about soil, we cannot do anything. It's just imaginary and we assume something which is not correct. We have to test it, real soil, and to know its strength. Only then we can say, we can use those parameters for purpose of design of foundation. Now, geotechnical investigation program, field investigation, sampling, laboratory testing, geotechnical investigation report. These are steps. We have to make program first. What investigation we have to conduct, geotechnical investigation program, then field investigation and sampling, what type of investigation we have to, what methods we have to use, sampling we have to take, then we have to take those on site, and also we have to take those samples collected from site to laboratory for purpose of testing, and then we have to prepare a report that's called geotechnical investigation report. Now, this is about laboratory. I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about what actually we have to do. We have to go to site, this team, specialist team, and they must have knowledge and they should be available to collect data, official data, particular data, factual data. And then they have to do this, just information quality. I'm not interested in that. What they have to do, then they have to prepare topographical maps, geology maps, and evaluation of regional geology conditions such as earthquake, faults, formation of soil, climate, and weather data. उसके ऊपर के क्या नक्शे बनने हैं, कहाँ ऊंचा है कहाँ नीचा है, उस ज़मीन को देखना पड़ता है, कहाँ नदी नाले हैं, कहाँ सड़क है, कहाँ क्या बड़ा एरिया है, तो वो सब रिकॉर्ड करना पड़ता है. उसके नीचे खोदते जाते हैं, खुदाई करके देखते हैं, उसके हिसाब से टेस्ट किए जाते हैं. कहीं गड्ढा खोदना पड़ता है, कहीं नीचे पाइप उतारने पड़ते हैं टेस्ट करने के लिए, क्या कंडीशन है जानने के लिए, कहाँ भूचाल आ सकता है, कहाँ नहीं आया, पहले कभी आया, फॉल्ट्स हैं, कटे हुए हैं, what type of formation of soil is that, and what type of climate and the other is this, कैसा मौसम इस एरिया क्या है, ये सब हमें देखना होता है. जियोटेक्निकल इन्वेस्टिगेशन प्रोग्राम. Now, geotechnical investigation program is geotechnical engineering consults and establishes geotechnical investigation. Geotechnical investigation program with respect to project specifications, type of structure, difficulty of structure, expected ground conditions, data collection including but not limited to. हमको ये देखना होता है कि हम जो करने जा रहे हैं उसके अंदर क्या आवश्यकता है, कॉन्ट्रैक्ट की क्या आवश्यकता है, स्पेसिफिकेशन कौन सी यूज़ होनी है, किस तरह का स्ट्रक्चर बनना है, मकान बनना है या कुछ और बनना है, और उसमें किस तरह की प्रॉब्लम्स आ सकती हैं, कितनी ऊंचाई होगी, कितना वेट होगा, कितना क्या होगा और किस तरह से वो काम करेगा, उस पर कितना लोड आएगा और आ सकता है, और वहाँ की ग्राउंड कंडीशंस क्या है, वो हमें क्या क्या उसके लिए चाहिए, ये सब बातें को समझना होता है। वी हैव टू अंडरस्टैंड व्हाट टाइप ऑफ लोड इज कमिंग हियर, व्हाट्स वैल्यू ऑफ लोड, व्हाट इज हाइट ऑफ बिल्डिंग, व्हाट साइज ऑफ दैट, एंड एवरीथिंग वी हैव टू कलेक्ट. Depending on that, we have to see means what area is that, what climate here, and what times what's wind is there. Everything we have to collect, and then we have to take samples. यही है. We have to see list of technical standards to be applied. कौन से हमको मानक लगाने हैं उस पर. Geotechnical site investigation, drilling methods of soil, etc. Rock. List of technical standards to be applied. Geotechnical site investigation, drilling methods in soil, oblique rock, sampling of soil, oblique rock, oblique groundwater, field testing, geotechnical laboratory testing of soil, rock, groundwater characters. इतने सारे देखिए लिखे हैं इसमें पैरामीटर्स. हमको जांच पड़ताल करने के लिए मिट्टी की क्या क्या करना होता है और किस तरह से हम ड्रिल करेंगे, उसके अंदर जाएंगे मिट्टी के अंदर पाइप के थ्रू, उसका कौन सा मेथड होगा, कौन चट्टान है तो क्या होगा और मिट्टी है तो क्या होगा, सैंपल कैसे लेंगे, किस तरह से रॉक करेंगे, ग्राउंड वाटर के बारे में क्या जानेंगे, फील्ड टेस्ट क्या करेंगे और हम लेबोरेटरी में क्या टेस्ट करेंगे, प्रयोगशाला में क्या टेस्ट करेंगे उस चट्टान का, उस मिट्टी का और उस पानी का जो मिट्टी के अंदर है उसके बारे में जानना चाहे. नंबर मैपिंग लोकेशन डेप्थ ऑफ बोरहोल्स, उसको हम बोरहोल भी कहते हैं. बोरहोल आप जानते होंगे जो पंप पानी निकालने के लिए आप बोरहोल लगाते हैं घरों में, जिससे आप ट्यूबवेल कहते हैं, एक तरह का बोरहोल छोटा पाइप का, वो बोरहोल कहते हैं. उससे वो जाता है मिट्टी के अंदर. नंबर मैपिंग लोकेशन डेप्थ ऑफ बोरहोल, कितने हम बोरहोल करने हैं, उसको लोकेशन क्या लेनी है, मैपिंग करनी है, कहाँ वो है, कोऑर्डिनेट कहाँ है और उससे कितनी गहराई तक जाना है. नंबर मैपिंग लोकेशन डेप्थ ऑफ बोरहोल्स. सॉइल एंड रॉक ड्रिलिंग एंड सैम्पलिंग मेथड. सॉइल इन्वेस्टिगेशन, मिट्टी निकालनी है, चट्टान को खोद के निकालना है, ड्रिल करके निकालना है, सैम्पलिंग उससे निकालनी है. सॉइल एंड रॉक ड्रिलिंग एंड सैम्पल मेथड्स, सॉइल इन्वेस्टिगेशन. नंबर ऑफ स्टैंडर्ड पेनिट्रेशन टेस्ट, एसपीटी बोलते हैं इंग्लिश में, एक नाम है उसका, स्टैंडर्ड पेनिट्रेशन टेस्ट. पेनिट्रेट करके हम उसका स्टैंडर्ड से जिसकी स्ट्रेंथ निकालते हैं, कितनी स्ट्रेंथ वो ले सकता है, नंबर होता है स्ट्रेंथ का उसका. नंबर ऑफ स्टैंडर्ड पेनिट्रेशन टेस्ट. नंबर ऑफ फील्ड वेन शेयर टेस्ट. नंबर ऑफ डिस्टर्ब्ड एंड अनडिस्टर्ब्ड सॉइल सैंपल्स. नंबर ऑफ डिस्टर्ब्ड रॉक सैंपल्स. ग्राउंड वाटर सैंपलिंग. जियो टेक्निकल लेबोरेटरी टेस्ट प्रोग्राम. देखिए आगे ना हम टेलिंग यू. See, this is list of technical standards to apply geotechnical site investigation, drilling method, soil, rock, sample of soil, rock, ground, water, field testing, geotechnical laboratory testing of soil, rock, groundwater characteristics. I'm just telling you again because very important. Number mapping, location, depth of boreholes, soil and rock drilling, sampling methods, soil investigation. Number of standard penetration tests, name of test is number of standard penetration test, number of field vein shear test, number of field vein shear test. नंबर ऑफ डिस्टर्ब एंड डिस्टर्ब का मतलब हम खोद के निकालने सॉइल या वहीं सैंपल लें उसका, जो ख़राब खींच के निकाल देते हैं मिट्टी वो डिस्टर्ब होती है, और जो अनडिस्टर्ब होती है जैसी मिट्टी वहाँ होती है नीचे वैसी इसको निकालते हैं. दैट्स कॉल्ड नंबर ऑफ डिस्टर्ब एंड अनडिस्टर्ब सॉइल. से कितने हमको निकालने हैं. नंबर ऑफ फील्ड वेन शेयर टेस्ट, एक नाम है टेस्ट का, उससे कितने करने हैं, और नंबर ऑफ एसपीटी कितने करने हैं. नंबर ऑफ डिस्टर्ब एंड अनडिस्टर्ब सॉइल सैंपल्स. नंबर ऑफ अनडिस्टर्ब रॉक सैंपल्स. ग्राउंड वाटर सैंपल. Geotechnical laboratory testing program and work planning of manpower and equipment with respect to program, mobilization, demobilization of geotechnical drilling team, supervision, personalization equipment, survey and set out of boreholes, coordinates, proper handling, warehousing and transport samples to geotechnical laboratory. ये जो मैंने आपको ऊपर बताया, this all what we have to do is the geotechnical list, which is minimum, means it's not ultimate. You can add many more if you require. All these tests are done. Then drilling work. Drilling works will be carried out by using drilling rigs. Rigs होते हैं drilling rigs having the capacity of drill to drill in sizes and to termination requirements or depths instructed. We can provide rotary drillings methods into soil and rock. Instead of this company is saying, but actually rotary drillings are provided methods into soil and rock. Instead of applying different types of flushings, media depending on existing and encountered soil conditions. In particular case of encountering rock layers, appropriate boring coring method should be based on single tube core barrel or double tube core barrel, being capable of recovering rock case cores. Soil sampling and soil investigation. जांच पड़ताल सॉइल की सॉइल सैंपल लेना. अनडिस्टर्ब सैंपल विल बी टेकन. अनडिस्टर्ब मतलब जैसे ही उसके सॉइल में हैं हम उसे ख़राब नहीं करेंगे, वैसा ही लेने की कोशिश करेंगे. Undisturbed samples will be taken at certain intervals to borehole termination, and that change of strata in borehole under application of various sampling methods and respective technical standards. Disturbed samples can be derived from selected recovered course of standard penetration tests. SPT for detailed guidance on suitability of various soil samples technique in different types of soil. Our geotechnical expert will provide professional advice. Now, sampling, handling, labeling, and transport of samples will be executed in strict adherence with international standards and guidelines. वो कैसे लेंगे सैंपल को, कैसे हाथ में रखेंगे, कैसे उसके निशान लगाएंगे, नाम लिखेंगे, और फिर किस तरह उसको ट्रांसफर करेंगे ताकि डिस्टर्ब ना हो, इंटरनेशनल स्टैंडर्ड के हिसाब से चलता रहे, कोई प्रॉब्लम ना आए इसमें. This is all that. Now, undisturbed samples use undisturbed जो डिस्टर्ब नहीं है. Undisturbed samples using open tube samples as thin wall or thick wall tube samplers can be applied depending on the encountered soil condition, whereas thick wall tube samplers is applied for stiff and dense soils. It says undisturbed samples using open tube samples as thin wall and thick wall tube samples can be applied depending on encountered soil conditions, whereas thick wall sampler is applied for stiff and dense soil for soils containing coarse particles. Soil types that are difficult to sample retaining or closer devices are necessary. Undisturbed samples using piston sampler can be applied to low strength fine soils such as silt and clay, including sensitive clays. It can be used either in the boreholes or be pushed directly into soil. Rotary cold draining and rock sampling. In sampling by rotary cold drilling, a tube system fitted with a bit of its lower end is rotated and fed into rock mass by drill rig via drill string. This action produces a core sample within tube system. A flushing medium is normally used. Sampling tool. Its core barrel can be a single tube, double tube, or triple tube with a borehole diameter of 70 mm to 200 mm. Rock coring should be executed minimum 5 meter into rocks. For detailed guidance on suitability of various core drilling and sampling techniques in different types of soil and rock, or general team will Luxroge. Samples can be obtained by this method. Core cutting, single tube core barrel only allows core recovery in consolidated formations, whereas double tube and triple tube core barrels can be used in all rock formations. Standard penetration test (SPT). Standard penetration test shall be performed in borehole in order to estimate consistency, relative density, and strength deformation parameters of soils. In addition to the soil samples, obtained from SPT testing are used for classification purposes. SPT testing can also be carried out in a weak weathered rock. SPT testing shall be performed at certain numbers and respective intervals. It's common to apply an interval of 1.5 meter per test to borehole depth. 1.5 meter per test to borehole depth. Termination for all boreholes. Number of blows required to 15 centimeter penetration of fraction thereof is to be recorded. First 15 centimeters to be considered as a seating drive. Number of blows required for second and third 15 centimeter penetration is termed as standard penetration resistance, or raw. N value it is called, raw N value. Field wind shear test (VST). Wind shear test is in place shear test in which a rod with thin radial vanes at end is forced into इस मिट्टी के अंदर उस rod को घुमा के घुमाते हैं into soil, and resistance rotation of rod is determined. VST addresses is VST means field vane shear test. This is testing on land and for testing in drill holes or by self drilling or continuous push. Methods for ground surface. VST provides an indication of in situ undrained shear extent of fine-grained clays and silts or other fine geometrical such as mine tailings, organic muck, and substances where undrained strength determination is required. Knowledge of nature of soil in each when test is made is necessary for assessment of applicability, and interpretation of test is not applicable for sandy soils which may allow drainage during test. Test is totally performed in conjunction with other field and laboratory tests. Then cone penetration test (CPT). Cone penetration test (CPT) can be performed to evaluate effectively site characterization. It's a valuable method of assessing subsurface stratigraphy associated with soft materials, discontinuous lenses. Organic soils, potentially liquefied materials, silt, sands, and granule gravel. Generally excluding bedrock, very dense granular fill and strata containing cobbles and boulders. CPT is performed using a cylindrical penetrometer with a conical tip. Cone penetrating the ground at a constant rate. During penetration, force on cone and friction sleeves are measured. CPT and measured data can be used to evaluate soil conditions and parameters as follows. What we can define: determination of soil strata variations and characterization of soil type, evaluation of ground engineering properties, undrained shear strength, relative densities, equivalent standard condition test values may be derived from measured data as mentioned above. P's cones, CPTU, piezo cones can be used to measure pore water pressure and to assess hydrostatic head consolidation and permeability characteristics. Data may be used to analyze pile load bearing capacity, foundation settlement, and liquefaction potential. Cone penetration test CPT provides a continuous although indirect record of ground conditions. Moist content index property test index determination of soil classification. Moisture content, moisture means nami. Determination of moisture content of a soil is a percentage of its own dry weight. Unit weight determination of total moist and dry densities. Unit weights of soil specimens. Specific gravity determination of specific gravity of soil solids passing 4.75 mm sieve. Number 4, and means of a water piconometer. Atterberg limits determination of liquid limit, plastic limit, and plasticity index of soil. Particle size distribution, quantitative determination of distribution of particle size in soils. Distribution of particle size larger than 75 micron retained on number 200 sieve is determined by sieving, while distribution of particle size smaller than 75 micron is determined by a sedimentation process using hygrometer. So, particle size distribution is very important. Particle size distribution, quantitative determination of distribution of particle size in soil, distribution of particle size larger than 75 micron retained on नंबर 200 सीव जाली होती छानने की IS कोड के हिसाब से 200 सीव is determined by sieving, while distribution of particle size smaller than 75 micron is determined by sedimentation process using a hydrometer. Engineering properties test determination of strength and deformation parameters. Engineering properties unconfined compression strength, determination of unconfined compressive strength of cohesive soils of axial load. Consolidation test, one-dimensional consolidation properties, determination of magnitude and rate of consolidation of soil when it is restrained laterally and drained axially while subject to incrementally applied controlled stress loading. Data from consolidation tests are used to estimate magnitude and rate of both differential and total settlement of structure or earthfill. Estimates of this type are key important in design of engineering structures and evaluation of their performance. Consolidated undrained triaxial compression test, consolidated undrained triaxial compression test, determination of soil and stress strain. Relationship of cohesive soil when specimens are isotopically consolidated and sheared in compression without drainage at a constant rate of axial deformation. Data from undrained triaxial compression tests are used in geotechnical engineering analysis to predict how materials shall behave in large-scale geotechnical engineering applications. An example to predict stability of soil on a slope, whether slope shall collapse or whether soil shall support shear stresses of slope and remain in place. Undrained triaxial compression tests are used along with other tests to make such engineering prediction. A uniaxial compression strength test. Uniaxial compression strength are determining unconfined compressive strength of intake rock core specimens. It's a test method of compressive strength and elastic moduli of interact core specification. Core specimen under varying states of stress and temperatures. Unconfined compressive strength of rock is used in many design formula and is sometimes used as an index property to select appropriate execution technique. Chemical analysis of groundwater. pH value, pH value, everybody, sulfate content and chloride content test. pH value, sulfate content and chloride content test. Determining aggressiveness of groundwater to concrete and steel structures. Now about report, this is general tests. There are so many tests, but these are general one we are talking about. There are so many more tests. I'm not talking this talk. It's just for reference. This document being shown to you. Now geotechnical investigation report, what you talk about that. Detailed report shall be provided and prepared tailor-made for each project according to respective project scope of service. The following table of content is standard table of content that shall be adjusted according to project scope of service. Executive summary. Now we are talking summary, covering letter type. Project description. Description works performed with respect to geotechnical investigation program. Technical standards, site conditions. So 4 points. Project. What is project? Then description of works performed with respect to geotechnical investigation program. We have the history of that, how we did, what actions we have taken, what tests we have included, and what standards we have used. Technical standards and site conditions. These are 4 points required here. This means executive summary we have to provide this in the beginning, so that person should not go through all report. Just know if you want to know actually what informative this is, and then you go to field investigation, geotechnical field investigation. For the drilling of boreholes, we discuss soil sampling, rock coring, rock sampling, and standard penetration test, and field and shear test, cone penetration test, final quantity report on field investigation works, geotechnical laboratory testing. Index properties tests, moisture content test, unit weight test, specific gravity test, attribute limits test, particle size distribution test. And then engineering properties test, unconfined, compression, strength test, consolidation, audiometer tests. Chemical analysis of groundwater, final quantity report on laboratory tests, evaluation of soil conditions and soil parameters. Soil profile. Now we are talking evaluation of soil conditions. Maybe we have to know from this report what we understand of that. That's called evaluation of soil conditions. Soil parameters. Soil profile, we would like to know what type of soil it is. Deformational properties of soft clay layers, pre-consolidation pressure and over-consolidation ratio. Compression, coefficient of primary consolidation, index secondary consolidation, strength parameters, undrained, shear strength parameters from CIU test, CSPTN values, groundwater level. This was about tests about soil, what soil says, what soil conditions are, what soil parameters are. These are all related to soil. This is related to groundwater level measurement. Result on chemical groundwater analysis and evaluation of level of aggressiveness to structures, and conclusion and recommendation. We have to tell based on foregoing told you what we have to do, what you should do. Geotechnical soil conditions of project site, recommendations for building foundation methods, soil improvement methods according to project scope. Now appendices, we have to attach summary of laboratory testing result on index and engineering properties, bore logs and standard penetration test results, vein shear test results of laboratory testing, work progress reports and photo documentation, daily site records and drawings. This is what is there, and list of standards for geotechnical investigation, geotechnical planning and geotechnical investigation program, code of practice for site investigation, BS 5930 1999, Vietnamese code of practice for exploring, drilling and engineering geology 22 TCN 2592000, Vietnamese standard of geological investigation of marine structures 22 TCN 260200. Then standard guide for use of direct rotary drilling with water-based drilling fluid for geo-environmental exploration and installation of subsurface water, quality monitoring device, and then thin wall tube sampling of soils, geotechnical ASTM D1587, standard practice for rock core drill and sampling of rock for site investigation ASTM D211399, and then test method of penetration test and spill barrel sampling of soil ASTM D1586 standard penetration test, standard test method of electronic friction cone and piezo cone penetration testing of soil ASTM D5778 cone penetration test, standard test method for field vein shear test and saturated fine grain soil ASTM D573 field vein shear test, standard practice for description identification of soil ASTM D2488, then geotechnical laboratory testing, standard practice for classification of soils for engineering purpose ASTM D2487, standard practice for dry preparation of soil samples for particle size analysis and discrimination of soil, constant ASTM D421, standard practice for particle size analysis of soils ASTM D422, sieve hydrometer analysis, standard test method for liquid limit, plastic limit and plasticity index of soil ASTM D4318 Attenborough limits, standard test method for specific gravity of soil solids by water picnometer ASTM D854 specific gravity, standard test method of laboratory determination of density unit weight of soil specific This ASTM D7263 Bulgaria. I think I left for standard test method specific gravity of soil. Solid by piconometer ASTM D854 specific gravity. And standard test method of laboratory determination of water content soil rock by mass ASTM D2216 natural moisture content. Standard test methods for one dimensional construction consolidation properties of soil using incremental loading ASTM D2435 audiometer test and standard test methods for unconfined compressive strength of cohesive soils ASTM D2166 standard test method for consolidation and drying tricycle compression test for cohesive soils ASTM D4767 standard test method for determination of point load strength index of rock and application of rock strength classifications and standard method test for unconfined compressive strength of intact rock core capacity specimen ASTM D2938 standard test method for underground water chemical test pH value STM D4972 standard test method for underground water chemical control chloride content ASTM D52 and many more standard test method for underground water chemical test sulfate concentrate etc. These are tests and when the ASTM then is the testing of materials then these are you can say ASTM stands for this testing of material institute ASTM it's like that so we can say that we have gone through these talks. These tests are conducted depending on the requirement, depending on what soil, what project is that, what value it is, what do you want, what is required. The engineer has to decide. Soil engineering is very difficult, it's not easy, but it is clear, because of clear without soil engineering you cannot move your foundation cannot be done without soil engineering. You have to think that if you think you can do, you can assume, आप सोचेंगे हम मान लेंगे क्या लोड आएगा, फाउंडेशन क्या लोड लेगी, आप गलत रास्ते पे जाएंगे, सही रास्ते पे नहीं जाएंगे. क्लियर होना चाहिए कि क्या करना है. That's very important. Means what is required, what's technically required, engineering was required. Otherwise you think you are in wrong boat, you are doing mistake just for some money saving. You are going to spoil your foundation, you are going to spoil your structure, because without foundation cannot be done, without soil knowledge, without complete value of soil, what load of soil, what soil this load can take, how much load this soil can take, how much compression is there, and how much it shall settle in future. Means it settles maybe 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, it goes inside. That's called consolidation. We should know everything about this, how much water is there, how much air is there in soil, how much water it can take, how much it cannot take, like that. All these properties are must for this, and that's for purpose I gave you this talk. I think thank you very much for this. I'm closing this now because I use this with my video. This is for soil investigation. Thank you very much, and I think